Welcome to Hope Matters, Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica's weekly program about hope. I'm Pastor Rick Shafer, the senior pastor at Mount Olive, and each week I talk to interesting people about the theme of hope in their lives, because we believe that we have a God of hope. Today my guest is another dear, I was going to say old friend, but let's say longtime friend, Pastor Rick Rouse. A pastor of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, who's had a long career in pastoring congregations, in working in, especially in higher education, on a number of side teaching and administering, and a whole bunch of interesting things in his career. He's even been on Oprah. We'll talk about that later, perhaps. But Rick, it's good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Eric. Thank you for having me.
All right, and where are we talking to you from? Where are you?
We're in Mukilteo, Washington, which is about 20 miles north of Seattle.
I've been to your home, and I know that you have a great view out that window of the Puget Sound, right?
We do, which is why we're here, and love every minute of being in the Northwest.
Rick, you served as a pastor in congregations mostly on the West Coast. Do I remember that correctly?
That is correct. Pretty much Washington, Oregon, California, and then short stint in Phoenix before I was on synod staff.
You were on synod staff, and well, there you were relaunching a congregation, as I remember.
That's correct.
That's correct. So, Rick, you have a new book coming out, and I think that is probably our best way to get into the theme of hope, because it has a lot of connections. For our audience, Rick has written a number of books in a number of different areas, and his new one is about these times. So, Rick, tell us about the new book.
The book is entitled "The World is About to Turn: Mending a Nation's Broken Faith." We recognized a few years ago, as my co-author and I began to think about what was happening in this country, that we were a country that was hopelessly divided, a place where we seem to have lost the ability for civil discourse. We seem so polarized that we can't come together to work for the common good. People are feeling hopeless about the future. And we wanted to get to the bottom of why we had come to this point in our history as a nation, and to find a way forward, believing that we certainly serve a God of hope, and a God that wants us to believe that there is a future with hope. One of my favorite verses is from Jeremiah, that God says, the future is that I have for you is not for your harm, but for your welfare, and to give you a future with hope. And so we wanted to find a way to address the issues of the current contemporary society, how we got here, and how we can move forward with hope.
You did some research for this book. What did you study to get to the conclusions that you're drawing?
Well, we took a look at certainly a lot of our American history, religious history, as well as contemporary theologians, and then a lot of current writings as well that kind of analyze what's going on and how do we move forward as a nation. We started actually by talking about, in the book we talk about the failure of the American religious experiment, how religion has been used as a political weapon from the early days of this country until now. For example, beginning with the doctrine of discovery and manifest destiny, religion has been used to justify the genocide of Native Americans, as well as slavery. Today, the Christian right uses religion as a reason to discriminate against members of the LGBTQ community and to justify white privilege, even white supremacy. Senator Cotton of Tennessee recently suggested that slavery shouldn't even be taught in schools. And this has shaped prejudicial attitudes towards other faith traditions, leading to Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, resulting in an alarming rise of violence against Muslims and Jews in this country and around the world. So we wanted to start there to kind of analyze how we got to where we are, and then talk about how do we find a way forward.
Yeah, because what you just described doesn't sound very hopeful, does it?
No, it doesn't, but it certainly describes what we're experiencing
Yes.
in this country today.
So without giving away the whole book, you know, what are one or two of your conclusions for how we do get out of this mess?
Well, we started by drawing from Old and New Testament scriptures, as well as other faith traditions. We unpacked the prophet Micah, where Micah says, what does it mean, or what does God require of us? But to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. And so we wanted to unpack what that means. What does it mean to do justice? What does it mean to love mercy? What does it mean to walk humbly with God and with others? And to give some examples about how we could do that together. We looked at other faith traditions to find similarities. My co-author, Paul Ingram, was a longtime American religious history and world religions professor at PLU, a colleague of mine when I was on the faculty there. And so he addresses some of the similarities and commonalities that we have between Jewish and Christian traditions, but with other faith traditions around the world, and how we can begin to find common ground for those basic principles of loving our neighbor, for example, the golden rule. What does it mean to work for justice and for peace? And then we have a whole chapter called Building Bridges of Hope, 10 Ways Forward, where we look at practical ways for introducing interreligious dialogue and introducing people of different ethnic traditions to one another, and finding ways to even look at our own prejudices and find ways for more self-awareness, to be honest with ourselves and say, you know, am I really prejudiced? Well, we all have a certain amount of prejudice in us, of course. But to be honest with one another, but to find ways then to be in dialogue with people of different faith traditions, different ethnic backgrounds. And in the end, I'm hoping that we have at least laid out the groundwork for helping people understand how we got to where we are, but also to understand themselves and to begin to understand their neighbor.
Cool. And do you see this book then maybe used as a study book by groups and congregations? Is that how kind of you were envisioning it?
Yes, we have laced it with various illustrations. There's discussion questions at the end of each chapter, kind of reflection on what they've read. It's designed for use in congregations and synagogues, mosques. It's an interfaith resource. In fact, I'll show you a picture of the book right now.
The cover right there. The World is About to Turn, which is also the website, isn't it, Rick?
It is. www.theworldisabouttoturn.com. The full title, The World is About to Turn, Mending a Nation's Broken Faith. It's going to be out in October, I believe, of this year, published by Chalice Press. They're very excited about the book. We've had some great endorsements, and we're hopeful that the book will be of value and use to congregations and other faith traditions, pastors groups,
Great.
to be used in schools and so on.
Wonderful.
But again, our whole theme is again, it's to be an instrument of hope and healing.
Great. And people can order it on that website now, correct?
They can. In fact, they can pre-order it at 20 or 25% discount.
Right, right. And of course, it's also available on Amazon where everything's available, but okay. And
Yes, it is.
Since you're near Seattle. Let's just get off the book for a minute and we'll come back. With that all in mind, I know you're a dad and a granddad and a spouse, and a lot of things. What gives you hope? And what's, I ask people sometimes, what gets you up every day,
Well, I think for me, there's a number of reasons that I have hope. Obviously, my faith is something that I've always had a kind of a optimistic point of view that, in spite of the tragedies that I've been through in life, losing a spouse, a fire that burned down the church that I served, and a number of other tragedies that I've had to encounter, that I always feel that God is with me. God is always there, again, offering, as I mentioned, that verse from Jeremiah, offering me a future with hope. That there's always that hope that gets me up in the morning and gets the juices flowing. I think having a meaningful existence, a meaningful life. I have opportunities in retirement to, write books and speak and provide classes and offer hope to other people. I think my whole life has been one of trying to offer hope and healing to others.
That's great, Rick. That's wonderful. I think we've hit our topics today. You were mentioning to me earlier that there's a poem that really touched you by Langston Hughes that you put in the book, I believe, right?
That was in our research we came across Langston Hughes, who was an American poet who lived about 100 years ago. And in light of the Black Lives Matter movement and the selection of the first woman of color to serve on a national ticket of a major political party, his words seem especially prescient and powerful. And I want to share just an excerpt of that poem that appears in our book.
Please do.
Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be.
That's a very wonderful poem, isn't it? Yes, by a famous African-American author and poet of the last century. And if our viewers haven't heard of Langston Hughes, Google him, and you'll find a lot about this wonderful writer, for sure. Well, thank you for being with us, Rick. It's wonderful to talk about hope with you. It's always wonderful to see you anyway. And I'm happy that we could give a plug for the new book, because I do think, and that's why I wanted to talk to you on the series, knowing about the book before we talked, I do think that the book is spot on, as they say, for the themes of this program, of the importance of hope in our lives. Thanks for being with us, Rick Rouse, author of the new book, The World is About to Turn, which you can find at www.theworldisabouttoturn.com. It'll be out in October, November, you said, this fall, but you can order it now at some discounts, supposedly. You can find out when you go to that website. And Rick, it's always good to be with you. We've been friends a long time, and it is one of the things that also gives me and you hope the long-term friendships we have through the many ways our lives have passed and crossed over the years.
Well, we covet your friendship and admire the work that you're doing there in California. Wish you well in your ministry there at Mount Olivet, and hope that this program continues to flourish, because there's nothing like giving hope when this world so desperately needs a word of hope.
Thank you, Rick. There is nothing like giving hope when this world so desperately needs hope. This is Hope Matters, a program of Mount Olive Lutheran Church, which we produce each week because we believe in a God of hope, and we believe that hope matters. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.